Hi, welcome to the next edition of Standard Watching Standard Meta. And today we're going to, of course, be talking about three decks, two of which went 4 and 3 in sort of challenge, but they're super spicy. And then we have a deck that I think is more of just a pivot based off of the mana. Normally this was Jeskai, now seems to be an Azorius build. So I'm kind of intrigued to talk about that. And of course we have to talk about the meta shifts. There was a recent banning, BNR today, and nothing changed. So hopefully the meta is shifting and turning correctly. Let's dive in and see if that's actually occurring and get into the deck list. Before we do, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe, hit that notification so we're for future videos. We're on our way to 1,000 subs. Let's get there and let's get into it. So again, Pixie hovering around like 13 to 14%. Red deck wins is hovering about 11.5. Gruul aggro, for some reason, also is adjacent to it, but not, of course, not the same deck. Dimir mid-range on the increase, most trending towards. This, I believe, is the deck that is playing the Annex and stuff like that. So it does make a lot of sense that it's gaining a lot of traction. It preys on these two decks. As long as the quote-unquote best cards in the deck don't get overly hauled and beaten down by, of course, Pixie, it should be able to stabilize itself. With the increase of the aggro, of course, Overlords is on the dip. They might be able to readjust and put more lockdowns in the main and come back against these two, but it has a really good Pixie matchup. Of course, the heavy amounts of skew towards aggro, Golgari midrange on the increase. Dimir bounce also on the increase. It's pretty good against, I think, midrange. So it kind of preys on midrange. And then Azorius Omniscience kind of falling down. And Oculus a little bit of uptick. Control just dropping. And then I guess Dimir is picking up the slack for a control variant. And then you have a bunch of rogue decks at the bottom here. So there's not very diverse. Everything is kind of congested up in this one drop. This tier 1 slot. These don't really have much, I guess, a pseudo impact. We could honestly argue that Dimir Bounce is just statistically worse as per Pixie. But, you know, what are you going to do? So overall, I'm not really sold. I think a lot of these decks down here are going to start falling apart. It's going to be skewed probably more to this tier 1. And more results are going to be put by these 5 decks. Also keep in mind the deck totals is going to start dipping because of the seasons changing back to modern. So I would expect this to really start to falling apart and dropping. And for the most part, it might be just as dead as... Let's see. I want to know like if this is honestly going to be more dead than Pioneer challenges. Let me know in the comment section. Hindsight, do you think after this season, will standard challenges drop completely down the Pioneer level or not? Because I think a lot of the top people that play challenges will be migrating probably over to modern to get ready for the next season. So I imagine it's going to take a huge dip. But overall, this honestly feels, I guess you could argue against Pioneer. It's a little more balanced and every deck is represented. But Pioneer in general, like I said, is more of a turn style. So like typically, I mean, the decks are a lot more faster. So like red deck wins is a huge amount more faster than something like the Dimir Overlord's equivalent, which is like Incarnation. So it's pretty hard for Incarnation to stay afloat when red deck wins is on top, and so aggro takes them out. But this is a different story. It's a slower format, not by much, but it is slower. So like Overlords can stay alive during this transition period, but overall, not really exciting. Not that much changes going on, but other than the fact that it looks like Dimir's on the rise, so that probably means we're getting close to a churn to where it's actually going to be, hopefully, the aggro decks start dipping because they're not able to stay up with Dimir and Golgari midrange, taking them down a notch. But if you want to watch watching the Pioneer video, check it out on my main channel. The link is in the description for KebbieG's channel. Let's dive into the 3 other decks I have to talk about. So first we have a Azorius Convoke. I was kind of like thrown off about it because, I mean, I thought most of the time they played red because you gain access to the suite, make 3 tokens by destroying an artifact. Pretty good card. But yeah, they decided to cut that and just go completely into more the Bunnycorn, Mockingbird, Inspector, Spyglass, and a Warden, which is a Convoke card from Pioneer as well. So, and they had the Drowner for a little bit more Tipo play, with Sheltered by Ghost helped against the red-based aggro decks. We have a little bit of counter magic here to protect our curiosity and our main threats. Hover Shift, a nice little additional removal spell. We have Pixie to help bounce our Inspector, Siren, or a Mockingbird. It is kind of nice because you can, Inspector or Siren, Mockingbird, copy the Siren, make a token, play Pixie, pick up Mockingbird. That is not a bad line. After you tap it down, you can Pixie, pick it up, or whatever you want to do. That seems to be the main board besides this Destroy Evil. Not really much to talk about there. Sideboard, we have 2 more Destroy Evils for, tons of enchantments. There is a lot of enchantments in Standard. We have Decree, nice little black and red hate. We have a Negate, a little bit of counter magic against control. We have Rest in Peace for Graveyard Hate, split up for potentially a one-sided Wrath, since we should be able to do it when all their stuff's tapped down. Drowner helps, I guess, before if we have 5 mana, but not necessary. But killing all the tap creatures is pretty relevant. We have Tidebinder as a nice way to counter like Atroxa, ETBs, and etc. Raise the Pass to get her stuff back after a Post of Wrath. Disdainful Stroke, nice way to counter a CM mana value for a greater card. That is all I have to talk about regarding this deck. I think it's pretty sweet. The Curiosity fits the deck quite well to draw more cards. Weirdly enough, there's not really a lot of Convoking going on. Why is this called Convoke? Let me know in the comment section, because I want to know. Is it just because of the Warden? I don't see the guy from March of the Machines in this deck. Like, there's no actual Convokers. But let's get into the next deck list. So a deck that went 4-3 in a challenge. Pretty spicy list. This is like 4 color legends. Is built around like the crime mechanic, which is quite nice with the Tiny Bones joins up, which triggers Marchesa. We have 4 copies of that. 4 copies of Runestone. We have 4 Relic of Legends, Rona, Nihishi. We have Inti. So there's a lot of good options here regarding to legends. We have 4 cut downs as a nice way to hate on aggro, plus these Feast. Go for the Throat, Anoint, nice little removal spells, plus Spell Pierce. 3 Duresses in case the cut downs are not good in a given matchup against mid-range and control. We have Go for the Throat for more aggro hate, Ghost Vacuum for graveyard hate, Artifact Enchantment hate, Blot Out for big creature hate like Atroxa, Negate to stop the stop the reanimation spell, or whatever kind of thing from control. Again, cut down's not good. We bring in Duress and Negate. Eclipse for aggro, Elvish Norn to stop ETB triggers. Tiebinder, nice way to counter like the ETB trigger from Atroxa, stuff like that. We have a Virtue, nice way to hate on small creatures to gain a little life. Also, if you need a little bit more action, we could maybe bring this in and start reanimating stuff. So that is our 4 color legends deck. We have one more deck to talk about. Let's get into that one. So last but not least, we have Rakdos Cat Pact. This is, of course, using Harmless Offering with our Mirror. We sack something, get this, give them the Demonic Pact. We have Case. Is it okay card to sack to our Beseech, or even Nowhere to Run plus Breaker? These 2 cards are pretty good. You could play them for removal and then use them to sack it to get our Demonic Pack or whatever. We have this 1 of down here. That's a nice little sweeper in the main board that you can tutor with Beseech the Mirror. Molten Collapse plus Go for the Throat. Nice little removal. Mirth as a nice way to sack an enchantment, draw some cards. Ghost Vacuum for graveyard hate. Torch for removal. Duress for control and mid-range hate. Our help against those matchups. So we have Preacher. Nice little 3-drop after we get a breaker or Nowhere to Run down. Drop down a Preacher, slow the opponent down. Against aggro, we have more cut downs. Nice little set of Duress. We have Soul Guide Lantern for graveyard hate. Cases for grinding matchups. Heist for grinding matchups and control. We have Stone Brain for combo. Go for the Throat for aggro. Liliana the Veil for mid-range and Chandra for mid-range and control. We have Harmless Offering in case we need another one for some reason. I'm not sure about that one. We don't really have a way to tutor for it, so I don't know out of the board. I don't know why we want it. Nemesis as a way to stop life gain. We have Shieldred here. Pretty good threat we can bring in if they expect, hate for the Demonic Pact route. It's a nice little beat stick that can gain us some life, drain our opponent. And that is basically Cat Pact for Standard. That's the 3 decks I have to talk about. Let me know in the comment section which one of these decks you guys find the most interesting. And don't forget to check my other channel and go subscribe over there if you want to watch watching Pioneer meta. I'll talk to you guys next time.